right, so today our time together is going to focus on increasing confidence and building trust with your clients. And we're going to do that looking at tax planning. We're going to have some amazing examples of how Holistiplan can help you by creating common language with your clients. We're going to talk about a strategy. There's a magical phrase I'm going to share with you today on how to give your clients goals so that they feel like they're in the process for tax planning. And our third strategy that we're going to talk through today is how to give clients choice, so that when they are thinking through all of the things that you as a planner have provided for them, they have the opportunity to be guided to the choice that is best for them, even if they choose to do nothing, which I have some stories about clients like that. And what you all are going to receive as part of today's conversation is you're going to develop deeper relationships with your clients by implementing some of these strategies. These conversations are going to go from a reactive relationship to a proactive relationship where your clients are really going to be partnering with you to help them achieve their goals. Your clients are going to be happier, which is going to make you happier. You're going to feel more satisfied because they're going to feel more satisfied. And because these strategies are going to make you a better tax advisor. So today we're going to talk about strategies for building trust. I'm going to give you some examples specifically using Holistiplan with tax planning. And we're going to hear some stories from the field. And the outcomes that you're going to receive are these deeper client relationships, increased flexibility by working better with your clients, and confidence tax planning. Okay, everybody ready? Torie, we get online?
I may need you to log into the Zoom call so people can see the slides.
Okay.
So just continue and I'll figure this out.
Great. All right, everybody, here we go. So in front of you, you're going to see 4 color cards that have been placed for you. I'm going to read through this prompt. I'm going to ask you to raise the color card that best aligns with where you are today with these questions. We don't want to think about our desired state. We're all here to get better. So our desired state is something we want to go. But as we go through today, I might have like a couple of stories in my story bank. And I want to make sure that we're creating the presentation that aligns best with you. So for today, where are you today with tax planning? Think about your actual practice. Are you orange? I don't offer tax planning. Pink, I reactively offer tax planning to clients when they ask for it. Blue, I prioritize tax planning for selected clients. Or green, tax planning is core to the value I offer to clients. So online, you can just write an orange, pink, blue, or green. All right, let's raise our cards. Let's see where everybody is. Oh, wow. This is great. We have some really honest individuals here. This is awesome. I really love seeing this. Mostly, I'd say in the room, we have blue and green. We have a few orange. Thank you for coming. Today is going to change the way that you decide to work with your clients. Tax planning is really great because tax planning is an every year thing and you constantly get measurements as you're going, where some other planning we have is like decades away. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about when we look at the 3 strategies, our first strategy today is on building common language with our clients. And the reason this is really important for us in the room is because our industry has made it very difficult to connect with clients because we as a group of individuals have created a special language so that we can efficiently talk to each other. We use words like puts and calls, options, vanilla, right? We use this because it efficiently allows us to do things quickly with each other as professionals. But sometimes that language gets brought into our client conversations and it creates a result that we as individuals aren't expecting to put on our clients. So let's pause for a second and remember a time that we were involved in a conversation that felt comfortable. We're going to put ourselves in our client's shoes for a moment. We're going to sit on their side of the table and we're going to actually think through how they're feeling when we talk to them about things that they don't understand. Most of us here today have been involved in a conversation like that, and the one that I found that was probably gonna work for most people in the room was being involved in medical decisions. Most of us here had to work with medical professionals in some capacity, whether it is a decision that we're making for us, or they're presenting us with choices. It's a decision we're making as we're caring for our aging parents, where they're presenting us with choices, or it's a decision that we have to make for our kids in an emergency situation. Nurses and doctors are asking you to make a decision based on a limited amount of facts. And that can make you feel uncomfortable because you don't fully understand the outcome of what those decisions are going to make. They might show you a few graphs. You might see an x-ray, you might see a chart, and then they present you with the reasons why they're asking you to make the decision. And they're giving you ideas, just like in financial guidance, right? They're saying these are the outcomes that are most likely to happen if we do this. But for example, with like a surgery or something else that's a little bit more acute, it might be something where the outcome is not guaranteed. And that's the same kind of thing we do with our clients. And there can be challenges that are elevated when the language that you use is not the same language that your doctors or your professionals are using. Okay, this is a real story. I want you to come with me. I'm going to tell you a story about me and my 12-year-old. We're sitting in the doctor's office together. My son was complaining about something that was going wrong with his finger. And so we needed to go in and seek professional guidance. My son started playing lacrosse at 12. He developed in his left hand, which is his non-dominant hand for everything he does in life, but he's left-handed when it comes to stick sports, so tennis, golf, lacrosse. He does all these things with his non-dominant hand. And he started complaining about pain that was happening between his first knuckle and his hand. He started to develop a growth, and that growth got to be about ½ an inch off his finger, which was increasingly difficult when he was catching the ball with his stick because there was impact from that. And even with padded gloves on, that impact was making him not enjoy the sport. So we decided medical professional guidance would probably be pretty good. So after a series of tests, they drew blood, they got a sample, they did some x-rays. We were sitting in the surgeon's office, and the surgeon came in and sat us down and very calmly said, "Your son has developed a vascular ganglion cyst on his finger." And I didn't know what that meant. And the reaction I had from not knowing what they were saying is I held my breath. And my son was looking at me because he's looking, kids look to their parents to see how they should react in certain situations. And so my son held his breath. So now we've got two people not breathing in a surgeon's office, waiting for more information. And a nurse came in and she was like, "Hey, what this means is benign. Your kid will most likely grow out of it. There's no action that is required to be taken." A ganglion cyst is something that happens when tissue is torn over a tendon, and when it goes to repair itself, it creates a bulge. We have to do nothing. We did nothing. And over time, just like the nurse said, this has gotten better for him, which has gotten better for us, and he's continuing to play lacrosse. But what I want to explain is that when we held our breath, my pulse quickened, the feeling I felt in my body was warm, and I was uncertain. And my son had that exact same reaction. And the reason I kind of took you through that story was to help explain when we talk to our clients and we present with them language that should be benign, meaning not a big deal, and they hear us and they don't understand what's going on, they have the same reaction. It's a natural reaction to stress in their body. They hold their breaths, they feel uncomfortable. We want to make our clients feel comfortable, not uncomfortable. So we're going to work on creating language that helps them feel better when we're communicating with them. One of my favorite social scientists, Brene Brown, she has a phrase she uses all the time: clear as mud. And it's up to us as the professionals to try to simplify the complex phrases and words that we use to communicate with each other to make it super simple so that we're communicating with clients.
It's getting up.
And I have a financial example
Oh.
that I'm gonna go through.
Sure.
And for you,
This room, y'all are all going to understand this immediately because it's something that we learned in undergrad when we were getting our finance degrees. I get the benefit every year of presenting a financial class to Girl Scouts in Utah. You probably saw on that one slide, I'm the vice chair of the board of the Girl Scouts of Utah. So I work with them on creating financial classes to help little girls grow with some basis of financial knowledge. I get to go into troops, and this meeting that I do with these Girl Scout troops is the highest parent attended meeting of any session that's done with girls throughout the year. Talking to kids about money is very exciting because kids don't yet have personal feelings about money. They get presents for Christmas, they get presents for their birthdays, they get chore money, they get really excited when they go to the store and they get an allowance to spend. It's something that they really like to talk about. So the energy is really high in the room, and I'm trying to help them through some strategies. When they were younger, we taught when they were like 6 to 8, that's like the daisy age or the brownie age. We talked about when you get money, there's 3 things you can do with it. You can save it, which we all love as planners. You can spend it, or you can share it. And that's pretty common for someone from 6 to 8. When they got a little bit older, we started talking about the 50-30-20 rule for budgeting. And now that they're in the 10 to 12 age group, we talk about investing. I say, hey, that money you're saving, we can do a lot with that. We can put it in savings accounts, earn modest interest. We can invest it. We can pick stocks. We can talk about stocks and why. And the reason that parents are showing up to this meeting is because the way that I'm talking to the kids about some of these strategies, the visualizations I'm creating to take something that all of you know to help explain this to kids lands with the parents. And they ask a ton of questions on behalf of their daughters, right? They're like, hey, what about this? What about that? It takes away all of the pressure to know going into these professional conversations what they think that they're supposed to know, and makes it really easy with the visualizations to understand what's happening. And the other thing I like to do when I'm communicating to someone about a financial strategy or tax planning is use fun language. And so here, for example, I put magical year 17. Magically, in year 17, your interest is now earning more on an annual basis than you're contributing in principal that you're putting in every month, that extra $50. If this is your clients, add a 0, make this monthly, not annually. But you can help them see, hey, at some point through this, and you have the financial calculators to help model it out, there's a magical year where if something happened and you weren't able to put that next $50 and $100 in, your interest is doing it for you. It's earning more than you need to contribute. Let that be your first goal. Let the first goal be to get to where your interest is now earning more than you have to financially contribute. It lands with the girls, it lands with their parents, and hopefully it's just a way to help think through taking something complex, easy for all of you because you knew this, you studied it, and make it really simple for your clients. Holistiplan does this. We have these really difficult, not easy to understand tax forms that every income earner in America receives. They look at this, it looks foreign. It's not a surprise to me or probably any of you that people hate taxes because they don't understand it. It's really hard. And even with some of the best tools to understand how you got from the income you earned through wages, dividends, interest, all the way down to what's owed, it's really hard to understand until now, until Holistiplan. So with Holistiplan, for those of you who held up your orange cards and haven't done tax planning before, you can take that tax document with all the schedules. That one screenshot I showed you was the first half of the first page. It's pages long. We've seen up to 90-page tax returns put in our system with all the schedules. We take that information, we create really pretty visualizations. We use really simple language. We say things like average rate. What's your average that you're paying in taxes for every next dollar earned. We help explain marginal tax brackets. We help the clients understand what is happening with their tax situation. And on top of that, this visualization on the left, we have an explainer that even takes that tax report, it's only 2 pages long, the tax report, and reduces it down to 6 rows. This is what you earned. You had some above the line deductions. These are deductions that came off before the tax was applied. We got to your AGI. This is your taxable income that removes the below the line deductions, the deductions that come off your AGI. Your total tax, what you paid in and what you owe, or what comes back. 6 rows, really simple, from a document that just has a bunch of gobbledygook, really, on it. Most people can't understand it, and that's why they get really stressed out when it comes time to talk about taxes. Remember that clear is kind here. Okay, we're going to go to our second poll for the room. And again, I want you to think about your actual state, not your desired state. How often do you review your client's tax returns? Orange is never. Pink is during spring tax season, which we're getting ready to enter into. Blue is at least annually. And green is regular cadence throughout the year. All right, let's hold up our cards. All right, I love seeing this. This is great. So one of the tools that we're going to give you today is our annual tax planning calendar. So for those of you who are not already in the green, I'll give you today as part of today's session. You're going to receive it as a part of the thank you email. I'm going to put up an annual tax planning calendar, which shows strategies you can use Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We're going to talk through them briefly. So we're going to get the orange to pink, the pink to blue, and the blue to green. Okay, how we doing? Everybody doing good? There's water, coffee, food in the back. Feel free to get that as y'all need it. Okay, we're going to move into our second pillar of how to earn your clients' confidence and trust. And that is through helping your clients feel in control as part of the tax planning conversation. And I'm going to use the word magical again. I'm going to give you a magical phrase that you can use to help put anyone you're talking to in this conversation, in your planning conversations, or in life in general, into this feeling where you're shifting, you need something from them, but you're going to give them control over how they feel about answering the question. And so we're going to go through that. Why is it hard to review client tax returns? It's hard to review client tax returns because you have to ask the client to give you their tax return. And when I talk to thousands of advisors a year through these large enterprise relationships, this tends to be one of the largest blockers into reviewing a client's tax return, is just getting them to give the information. Holistiplan released this year the ability to use an annual income annualizer to try to get to that point. If you can get a pay stub, you can put that information in, we'll annualize the data throughout the year. But the most beneficial way of looking at a client's tax situation is getting the return with all the schedules, because we can go into those schedules and see different things through the schedules and help elevate those things to you as the individuals that are doing. And it's really hard to get tax returns from clients sometimes, especially with our boomer population, because they don't want to release that document because they feel like they're giving up some type of control. They believe, and I know this because my mom's in this group, we're going to hear a story about my mom shortly, but they believe they're giving something away. They are giving up their privacy. They're giving up too much information. And so we're going to help them through empowering them by giving them control to help them feel about that a little bit differently. Taxes feel uncomfortable for most people because taxes are something that happen to us. Until we get in control over how they're happening to us, it's always going to feel like this is something that's happening to us. Let's think of some things that happen to us, right? Illness happens to us. We don't control when we get sick. In-laws happen to us. We can control who we partner with in life, but we can't control who they come with, right? In-laws, that's an icky feeling sometimes for some of us. And taxes. Taxes happen to us until we take control of that situation. Giving clients the ability to talk to you about planning gives them back the control, right? We get to ask them questions. What are your goals? This is easy for them to talk about. These are their dreams. These are the things they want to achieve. For some of your clients, paying less in taxes is a goal. So here's that magical phrase. You're going to start asking your clients, are you willing? Are you willing to help me help you achieve that goal? You want to lower your taxes. Are you willing to let me see what drove your taxes in 2025 when you file your return this year, so I can help us see what's going to drive taxes in 2026? And I can present some choices to you that help control the outcome of those taxes in 2026. But I can't do that without the return. You want to retire by 55. Who in this room doesn't want to retire by 55, right? Are you willing to share with me the information I need to help you get to that goal? Are you willing to go deeper in this with me in our next conversation? In order for you to help your clients save on taxes, you need the information to see what's driving their tax liability. You're asking your clients for permission to be precise. Confidence follows a clarity of purpose. We're here today to talk about how to increase confidence and how to increase trust with our clients. When our clients understand why we need the information and what we're going to do with it, they're more confident in turning it over. You're providing the client with the ability to control the understanding of their tax situation so that it's not happening to them. It's happening because of them and the choices they make. The most confident advisors that I work with treat asking for a tax return as standard practice. If you're going into prospecting, you need some information to help get planning established with your clients. You're asking for account balances, credit card statements, mortgage statements, last year's tax return. It just comes off as natural and something that you want to have as included. And you're going to position it along everything else you need from them. And then every year, this time of year, let's get a standard email out to your client. Holistiplan can help with that to help them get you their most recent tax return. They can upload it in a link that you send them, or they can send it directly through the portals that you have working with them. When things feel normal, people feel safe. When people feel safe, they feel in control. And that leads to confidence, and that's going to lead to trust with you because you're helping them through that. You're coaching them through those decisions. Clients want to avoid the unexpected. So you have to give them the ability to control that outcome for themselves. By reviewing last year's return, I can help us control and get understanding about what's happening in 2026. And this is going to go from tax planning happening to us to tax planning happening because of us. Okay. Poll number 3. Thanks for doing this with me. What's the biggest barrier to tax planning? For those on the phone, the answers are orange, confidence, pink, compliance, blue, time, or green, technology. All right, let's hold up our cards. What's our largest barrier to tax planning? Time. All right. There's a big time over here. Oh, time everywhere. Wow, look at that. All right. If I told you I could give you a tool that turned a tax return into a beautiful report in less than a minute, would you be interested in that? Great. That's where tax planning is now, right? We get these returns, we upload them, we create client-ready reports in less than a minute. Now, for those of you who use Holistiplan a lot, you know that there's customizations you can do. You can go in, you can reorder what's on the page. You can control what's on the page. You can control the observations. But we did a big national rollout for a firm that has 10,000 advisors last week on February 12th. And the person who came to do the case study was involved in the pilot. And she said she would get the tax return sometimes in the room as the meeting was started. And she would get it scanned in and uploaded and part of the conversation by the end of their session together. That's really powerful to have technology that can help you do that. Okay, we're going to move into our third pillar today for strategies for earning clients' confidence and trust. And this is by providing clients with choices. We're going to help clients see what's possible for them and then empower them to make a decision. One of the questions that I get asked a lot about when we're doing evaluations for large enterprises to work with Holistiplan is, how do I help protect my advisors from offering tax advice? Holistiplan does not offer tax advice. Holistiplan offers choices. We take a client's tax return, and that observation bank at the bottom of the tax summary is all about choice. Hey, I saw that you are over 70 and a half. You should talk to your advisor about qualified charitable distributions. Hey, I saw that you didn't max out your 401k contributions. Hey, I saw that you have an HSA available to you through your schedule, but you're not contributing to an HSA. Let's talk through what the impacts of that could be. We talk about the decisions that you as the advisors can have that will impact their planning goals by making changes to taxes. What you can do as an advisor for tax planning is you can educate your clients around the decisions they can make that can impact their tax liability. You can model scenarios. You can say, hey, based on your exact tax situation, if we did this or we did that or we did this other thing, this is the impact it'll have to your outcome for tax liability. This is the impact it'll have to your planning goals. You can coordinate with a tax professional, tax advisor, or CPA. You can flag opportunities, and you can create a tax planning calendar. Those are all things that you can do and you should do with your clients. What you want to avoid are things like filing specifics or making recommendations without coordinating with the tax professionals. We want to think options, not recommendations, when we're doing this in our practices. Tax planning is helping you see the impact before you act, right? We want to help them feel in control over the situation, control over the outcome. If we did this conversion for $50,000, if we converted money out of your taxable bucket into a Roth bucket, this is the impact it'll have on your taxes this year. This is the impact it'll have on your planning long term. Those are the things that Holistiplan does. What we're not doing is saying, hey, you should convert $100,000 in a Roth conversion this year. Roth conversions. So Roth conversions are very exciting. They started really becoming really popular in 2024. We've seen a lot. I think we had over 100,000 different Roth conversions with different relationships done in Holistiplan last year using our new multi-year Roth conversion tool. And it's something that we receive a lot of feedback on as we continue to grow this and make it stronger. Some clients are really excited to minimize their lifetime tax liability. Some clients are terrified to spend $1 more in taxes this year. And both of those things have to be true in a lot of situations for this to happen. And I know about these people you have in your portfolios who want to hear about this. But if you present them something that says, hey, your tax liability this year will increase, you can see a tax liability line down here. Your tax liability will increase to these amounts. They have a barrier. They don't want to act. Even if you show them that doing this would save them $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in portfolio growth and minimizing tax throughout their lifetime. Remember, the reason we want to offer our choices this way is because it's our job to show our clients what the opportunities are. It's their job to make the decision on what's best for them. even if that decision is doing nothing, right? And I know that's really frustrating. I know these people. I've worked with these people. My mom is this person. She loves to have conversations with her financial planner. She calls me before she goes into the conversation to tell me what they're going to talk about. She calls me after they're done talking, but she is terrified to take any financial risk in her portfolio. She's terrified to make some of these changes. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that she doesn't fully understand them. And so she has to call someone else, to have someone she trusts talk her through what these things would mean for her and what they mean for the long term. And sometimes her and Tracy, her advisor, they call me together. They ask me to block my calendar, and I'm literally just there to say, like, hey, Mom, I believe what Tracy's saying, to help her get more confident, to help her get more comfortable with hearing what her advisor is trying to tell her. You see, my mom grew up as one of 11 kids in upstate New York. She lived in a barn. They didn't have insulated walls. She grew up in the 50s and the 60s. She walked to school. If she was here, she'd love to tell you about that 2-mile walk to school in the snow with a hot potato in her pocket. That's how they kept warm. That's what they ate for lunch and how she got home. My mom's only way that she could escape this life was when she turned 18, she enlisted in the Army. And my mom's 4'11", I'm 5'8", so she's like right here. She weighed 90 pounds. She was tiny. You have to be 100 pounds to enlist in the military. So she had to work really hard in a really difficult situation to get the 10 pounds, to increase her weight by 10% so that she could enlist. And that was the only way that she saw to get out of growing up in a barn in upstate New York. Well, while she was in the military, she received a military allowance or a military stipend. And she found out that her mom was using that money to help care for her siblings, which my mom's a very giving person. She's not that giving. She's still very bitter about that to this day. And what that did was erode her trust, right? She trusted her mom, but she lost that trust. And so then, she had to take her financial health back into her own life and make some different decisions. That's changed the way that she's been able to interact with everyone professionally in her life, including her financial advisor, who she's worked with for decades. But she still has this very personal story about trust, right? And that's why I share this with you, because you also have these people in your portfolios. They're the people that no matter how many times you use a tool like Holistiplan to show them options, they might not make the decision to move forward, and that's okay. It's their money, right? The choice to say no is always theirs. It's our choice to coach and guide. It's our choice to help them feel comfortable through choice to make a decision. And I know it can be frustrating. Another place where Holistiplan is really helpful, and this is like one of my favorite things to offer clients choices about, is on charitable giving. We can use our scenario analysis tool, like I just showed you, to model scenarios side by side. We can show what happens if we fund $50,000 with a check out of our checkbooks. We can show what happens if we fund it with a QCD if you're over 70 and a half and eligible by age. Or we can show what happens if you fund it through a donor advised fund. But remember, these QCDs, donor advised funds, DAFs, this is all very foreign to our customers. And we learned in our first pillar that one of our jobs is to demystify the complex and make it really simple. Holistiplan offers explainers where you can take a client's exact tax situation. And in this scenario, we're doing a $50,000 QCD for those that are age eligible. You have to be 70 and a half. And saying this is the difference in your tax liability from taking the distribution and writing a check for $50,000 and getting the deductions through either itemized or standard deductions, or the impact of taxes if you do a $50,000 qualified charitable distribution directly from the account. When you put something like this in front of someone like my mom, it makes it really easy for her to make a choice because she's not thinking through what's the strategy, how does it work? She's just seeing two side-by-side columns. Hey, if you're going to do this, this is option A, this is option B, right? You're kind of driving them toward the decision that you think is best for them. Here's our donor advised fund explainer. I included two visualizations here. The first one on the right-hand side, it's just a visualization of how a donor advised fund worked. This is pretty standard. You could probably find this anywhere you wanted on the internet by just putting in how does a DAF work. But this is great when we're talking about this with our clients, because instead of just jumping to the numbers, we're helping them understand this is why you would use a donor advised fund. These are the situations you want to put people in. If you received, let's say, $100,000 account from a relative, they left that to you, and you have to take these distributions and you have to use this money, you're showing strategies for how they can maximize giving and minimize taxes. And you're doing it in a way that makes it really easy. In our scenario analysis tool, you could put these side by side. You could put the QCD next to the DAF, next to writing a check out of the checkbook. It makes it really easy. And this is how planning builds trust with clients. We no longer, unfortunately, live in a world where the letters after our names and our business titles is enough, right? The world is uncertain. There's increasing uncertainty every single day. And so we have to employ some of these softer strategies, using common language, helping the clients feel in control and providing choices so that we can help shepherd their decisions to have their best interests when it comes to planning. And tax planning will unlock this for you. For those of you in the room who have been blue most of the time today, you already know that tax planning does this, because tax planning happens every year. This isn't a goal or a strategy we're putting in place and we're going to see what the results are in 5 years or 10 years. Let's look at last year's return. Let me help explain this to you. Are you willing to go through this with me so I can show you what the impact would be to your 2026 taxes? Here are some options. Here are the choices we can make to control the outcome. And then when they get their tax bill at the end of the year or in the spring of 2027, it matches what you've shown is going to happen for them through the whole year. That's building trust. That is increasing their confidence they have in working with you as an advisor. And I've seen some orange cards today, so I know that this might be a new frontier for you. This might be something that you're doing for the first time, but there's over 55,000 of you using Holistiplan every day with your clients. And I can assure you, if 55,000 other people can do this, you can do it too. So I'm really excited to help you take that first step into doing tax planning. And another thing you can do with your clients when you talk about this for the first time is admit that it's hard. Taxes are hard. This is complex. This is difficult stuff. I'm going to help explain to you what your tax situation is. And they might have questions. And I know that as advisors, when people ask us questions we don't have the answers to, it makes us feel uncomfortable. But you're not supposed to be the tax expert in this situation. You can say, these are great questions. Answer the ones you know the answers to, and then create a list to talk to the tax professional about and empower them with you to take these to them to get those answers. All right, now we're going to talk about turning tax season, for those of you who raised your cards that you do this once a year during tax season, into planning season. Now is the time to ask your clients for their tax returns. And the time is now because it's fresh on your clients' heads. They're filing their taxes, they're paying their taxes, or they're getting refunds that you can help them put into amazing strategies to grow over time. The data is fresh because they just went through this data gathering exercise to get all their forms, their charitable contributions they made last year. And the motivation is high because they either just wrote a check or got a refund that was outside of one of the strategies you're working with. So that's why now is the time to ask for the return. And then the next slide after this is going to be a really lengthy tax planning calendar. I've kind of simplified it here on this slide. And again, you're all going to receive a copy of this. But what we want to do with that tax return is we want to move through only talking about it during tax season or only talking about it once a year and make it part of our regular planning strategies that we have with our clients throughout the year. In Q1, we're going to go through the tax report. from the return, and we're going to identify one or two signals. When you're going through this with your clients, each client is going to have a comment or a question about certain things they're seeing on the tax summary. That's your signal. These are the things that they care about. These are the things that they're going to want to take impact on this year. In Q2, you're going to go a little deeper, start talking about these strategies, show them the explainers, what's happening if you decide to do a qualified charitable distribution or a donor advised fund. Do you want to do a Roth conversion this year? Let me show you some choices based on your situation. In Q3, you're going to go into proactive planning with them. You're going to look at your fall signals and year-end planning. Fall season, right? It's the giving season. And then in Q4, you're executing and rolling forward. So you're actually saying, okay, this is what we're doing. This is when we're doing it. And you're coordinating, getting all the information over to the tax professional. I'm not even sure if you're able to see this based on how small the font is, but this just takes what I just showed you and puts it into seasons throughout the year. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Again, this will be as a takeaway from today's session for you, but this is how you're going to change your practice from being a once a year tax conversation to including this year round. And I know I probably have some very investment and focused advisors in here as well. Taxes creep in there. We have a whole section on the tax report about the analyzing the investment income portion of a tax return. So these are things that you can be doing that will help impact the investments that you're making as well. Okay. From the beginning today, remember this slide? Today was about earning your clients' confidence and trust. And the strategies that we're going to start practicing today include using common language with our clients. We're going to simplify. As my daughter would say, you got to really make this easy, Mom. Really bring it down to our level. Try to get rid of some of the acronyms. Think about it from you're a professional, you use this language with each other, but this language is intimidating. We're going to give them control by asking them, are they willing? You can use this today with anyone you talk to at this conference. You can just practice the are you willing? So if you need help from someone, if you're looking for a room, can't find it, are you willing to help me? I promise you the data shows people don't say no when they get asked that question. And the third is by providing choices. I'll remind you that trust is not built with people by having all the answers. Trust is built by helping people understand choices and the impact that decisions will make before they happen. The real value of financial planning and tax planning isn't better outcomes, it's better relationships with your clients. That's going to unlock more for you over time. Because in the end, trust doesn't come from being right after the fact. Trust comes from helping people see what the impact is going to be before they have to commit to taking action. And that matters now more than ever. Okay, Torie, I believe we have time for questions. Are you able to see questions online? Okay, great. We can start. Will you want to start in the room or online? Okay. If you have a question, I'm happy to answer your question. Yes, we have a gentleman right here, Torie. Are you able to get him a mic, or you can say it really loud and I'll repeat it?
Is there any discussion or are you guys building out the state income tax analysis at all?
So for state income tax analysis, we have, when you do the tax summary, we have the insights at the bottom. And you can also model it in the scenario analysis tool if you're on our premium plan. But we don't run a separate summary for state.
Like a ton of missing information that we always have to manually add. Is that always going to be the case?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know specifically what you're meaning there, but do you mean in the scenario analysis tool where you copy over the state? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to get with you on the specifics there. But I don't have our product team here to talk about what's coming on the roadmap from the state's example. Yeah, no problem. Yes.
The Holistiplan is great. We use it casually.
Thank you.
I just told the following this. But there are scenarios where we actually end up extracting the data into Excel sheets
Mm-hmm.
and then show you the one of those examples is showing the impact of particularly appreciating securities
Okay.
or the worldwide funders.
Mhm.
Is there any plan to actually somehow show that and do you know the tax brackets?
Mm-hmm.
All the. Then the art of showing that.
Yeah. So in the question for those on the phone was increasing the strategies that we're offering specifically through donor advised funds to include additional scenarios. When you go to input into a donor advised fund today, there's the separate boxes for when I did this example here, I did like a full amount, but you can also do in what if you're giving different types of strategies. We can take that and ask our team if that's coming. Because the way, for those of you who aren't in Holistiplan, the way that we build our product roadmap is based off client requests. And so when you all raise these requests, when you go help support and elevate things up, they get put into a queue and these types of things get ranked for prioritization. And so it's really helpful to hear like scenarios like this and the one that the other gentleman asked about where you're having to go to Excel to model different additional things, because our product team loves to build for this. They love to build it to make it easier for you to stay in Holistiplan for these kinds of things. So thank you for raising that. Yes.
Oh, maybe you kind of answered this, but just for clarification, on the projections, are those standalone or can you do combinations, charitable giving, rough conversion, selling appreciated stock, those types of things, and then how many different combinations could you do?
You can absolutely layer strategies into one scenario. So I'm going to pull back up the top of our scenario analysis slide. Sorry for the fast scrolling. So I've been told that you can do 99 of these in Holistiplan. I've also been told there's no max, but I would never put 99 options in front of a client. We want to give them, I mean, if you think, if we go back to the language around like little kids, right? It's like, do you want to use your red toothbrush or your blue toothbrush? I'm not giving you the choice of not brushing. I'm giving you the choice of which one's going to help you achieve the goal that I have for you. So I usually, when you go to print this, it prints side by side on a piece of paper. I wouldn't go to multiple pages, keep it to 4 or 5. But you'll always have this baseline. You might not need that for the client. The baseline is just like, hey, if we do, your baseline is we're doing nothing this year different. This is your tax liability. Scenario 2 could be a $25,000 Roth and a $50,000 QCD if they're over 70 and a half, plus other things, or a $25,000 Roth and a DAF, or a $25,000 Roth in both, right? Or 50,000, 75,000. Really, the importance here is just, hey, I'm modeling this strategy. Here's the impact it has to tax. That's a great question. You can combine all those. Any other questions here in the room? Yes. That's a good question. For those on the phone, the question that was raised is how are we setting ourselves apart from all of the newer AI tools that are coming to market? There's one really powerful thing that sets Holistiplan apart. Well, two really powerful things that set Holistiplan apart from everyone else on the market. And Joel was here, but I think he stepped out. But T3, Joel Bruckenstein, T3, they run an annual advisor survey every year. And the other annual advisor survey that's done every year is done with Kitsy's. And these are third-party research studies where advisors go in and rate their favorite software, and they rate why it's their favorite software. And Holistiplan has owned the tax planning space since we brought our product to market in 2019, because we listen to our customers and we build based off client requests for what you need. And our tool is proven. We're accurate, and we care a lot about accuracy. And that is not something, we're not AI created. There's no generative search. The outcomes you see on the tax report, or sorry, not the outcomes, the observations you see on the tax report are deterministic, meaning that if you uploaded a tax return 100 times, 100 times you're going to receive the exact same observations because it's reading off a decision tree and not going out and asking what would be the opportunities based on this. And because advisors rely on us, because you want to be as directionally accurate as possible with your customers, that's one of the things from a product perspective that's going to continue to separate us from AI generated tools is our proprietary tax calculator and the fact that we listen to our customers when we build. The second thing, and this is what I'm very proud of because I get to work with the team directly that does this every day, is we've broken records in both the T3 report and the Kitsy study for being the highest customer satisfaction tool across all fintech solutions, not just tax planning. We earned over a 9 in that rating category every year because when you need something from Holistiplan, you can talk to a person, and that person does have letters after their name. You can talk to a CFP, an EA. Over 15% of our workforce is designated with that those kinds of professional things. And so I think it's really rare, especially as we moved closer to AI, that human support and human touch. So those are the two things that are going to continue to differentiate us. Yes, sir.
Paid by Holistiplan, but I will tell you the difference between Holistiplan and other software is I think we probably all pay for software we never use. And it looks like a really good idea out of the box, and we end up spending $500 on it for 6 months and then end up canceling it because we can't figure out how to use it and it's hard to get help. I think the best thing that Holistiplan does is make it so simple to get help. The amount of literature they have, the amount of webinars that they do allow me, who's not very good technologically, to actually thrive. And my son is sitting here shaking his head like, no, he's not. Yeah, that's true. It allows me to use it in a way that's meaningful and impactful to clients. And I get the help that I need. Other software that I've had, I just throw my hands up and say, I can't get any help on this. I don't even know who to contact for help. I think that's the difference with Holistiplan, in my opinion. Just
Thank you.
like you said.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm not using it now. It's interesting and might be something we have, but how does it integrate with other levels like a right capital or or things like that? Are there integrations or ways we can use them without having to input the data 2 times and use software?
Yes, so we have an integrations list on our website. We primarily integrate today with research tools like Kitsy's FP Pathfinder, CRM tools. We integrate with Wealthbox, Redtail. Torie actually manages this for us, and she's right over here, so I might have to phone a friend. But we are also working on integrations right now with financial planning software solutions and portfolio management software solutions to help increase that. With the tax return, when we read the tax return and all the schedules, there's nowhere in that analysis where we need to pull in portfolio balances or other planning decisions. However, our new tool, the multi-year Roth conversion tool, we do ask for how much are the taxable assets, how much are the tax-free assets, how much are the tax-deferred assets, which could integrate with a solution like that to make it easier so you're not having to like type over the information. So we are in the works with that. Torie's helping our product team with those connections. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Loved it. The one gap that I feel like I still need from, I'm curious where it's at on the roadmap, is the trust tax bracket and dealing with that and optimizing how much to be dispersed versus not, and helping and knowing what the trust tax amounts are. And where's that in the plan of coming into the system?
I don't have a date for you on trust plans. Sorry. Yeah. Trust returns, business returns, those continue to be 2 of the like largest requests we receive for moving into like the next frontier. I will say that our product roadmap in 2025 got a little derailed by the federal government. They released a new tax planning law that you've probably heard about at this point in time called One Big Beautiful Bill. And we released One Big Beautiful Bill in Holistiplan on July 5th, which was 24 hours after signature. And we were very quick to market to get that out. And so we pulled all hands on staff because we knew that you all rely on Holistiplan and need us to be there. So unfortunately, some of our other plans for 2025 kind of got set on the side. And they're still coming out with rules and we're still releasing rules. If you log into the main page of Holistiplan, you see under like all these great classes you can take to become experts, you see what we release. And it's like every week we've got something with One Big Beautiful Bill that we're continuing to release as they continue to write the rules for what they're looking for. Torie, how are we doing on time? Okay. Are there any questions online? Oh, well. Oh, great. We have a question right here in front of you. Yes.
That's why I'm here. What would you, or maybe it'll get talked about later, what are the simplest steps to start using it in a productive way? I come every year and I think it's probably 5 years.
Thank you.
That's barrier to actually get into it. And I've heard some of the tax code to do a lot of our own rough conversion planning, social security taxes, all that. So just any tips you have as far as like, I'm your child trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Have you uploaded your return yet to Holistiplan? Okay. So there's a cool feature in Holistiplan. Everybody gets a private household. That's your own secret household. You can put whatever you want in there. I would say upload your tax return and review it and see the amazing impact that it has. But also, we revamped all of our online training last year, and we have a YouTube channel that goes through, I know that 45-minute videos are no longer like where we are in society anymore. We now have like 6-minute videos where you can just like jump in and see One Big Beautiful Bill and Holistiplan or great things like that. And so I would say upload your tax return and just see the impact you have from reading it in Holistiplan, and then think about how you can deliver that to your clients. Yes, Torie.
This week you're gonna learn how to do that. This week, the next week you're gonna learn how to do an observation, build a scenario analysis, and how Kimberly said, like we use that profile. You can use your own return, you can select from the client and already have one. So that would be an option. Great. And build that out with some of our dealers, but we're actually opening that up. How do you finish on that?
Are advisors doing all of this, or you have care plans, or what's the ask for you?
Yeah, we've got a lot. It depends on the office, so I should just, I'm IT too, so, bit of experience you guys with taxing, and I'm trying to learn how to run a webinar online.
So we have a mixture of a lot of different we've got paraplanners, we have CPAs, and then we have regular advisors. Depending on how your office is supported, right? Are you the one that's going to run all them and do the meeting, or do you have someone else that runs the report for you and then you run the meeting? So it just kind of depends on how you are setting it up. Depending on if you are not the person putting the information in, maybe that's the person that attends the webinar, and then they kind of show you like, hey, here's the report that's spit out. We have a lot of that. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Torie. It's a great new program. We've had a lot of success with that, running that this year. Yes, sir. Green vest.
We have multi-advisor office support staff. We're users of Holistiplan, and when I say we, I mean because I find a lot of it, I'm doing all the input. Primary advisor, know the clients, know the relationship, most familiar with the tax code, tax planning, most comfortable with it. What does the tools look like to help gain access? Like, do I need a separate account or subscription for paraplanner who wants to come in and help support with some of the data input, uploading returns, creating households, and then I come in and sort of do scenarios and some fine tuning? what does that look like for if we're helping other advisors who may not be as comfortable with tax planning? We want to get them on the platform and on the tool, but they may not go in and build scenario. We, home office will build it for them, but they have access so they can use the reporting and they can use this in everything.
For those of you on the phone, the questions about user permissions and group-based permissions. So we have that in Holistiplan where you can come in and set view only access. For example, if you want someone to be able to go in and view it, but not make any changes. You also have the ability to turn on or off different parts of the tools, like the multi-year Roth projection tool, the scenario analysis tool. People can view it, they can use it, or you can have it turned off. So you have the ability to do that in the system. And then you also have the ability to put advisors for firms that are multi-advisor firms where you have lots of advisors in the system, but you want to keep your client data private. You can create units where you put advisors in units and they can only see the households in those units. And your paraplanners can run across the whole company or the whole office. We invite everyone to Holistiplan. We are a usage-based firm. So we only charge you based on the households you have. We don't charge you based on the seats. We want everyone to come. We want them to join Torie's Ignite program to learn how to use the system for the first time. We have about 6 different sample clients in Holistiplan that you can look at. You kind of get to see like a little bit about who they are and the type of client they are before you upload it, but it allows you to use this tool to upload sample plans. And we have some 2025 plans in there now. Okay, thank you. So we are going to transition. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you on the phone. I know we have several hundred people on the phone. Thank you for coming to this. It was really fun for me to have this conversation with you. I'm going to be here being IT for Torie's session, but Torie's going to come up here with a couple of advisors that use Holistiplan, and they're going to talk through how Holistiplan does more for them than just tax planning. They're going to talk about how they use the Schedule B to see assets that clients have across all the places where they have investments and talk through how Holistiplan helps them grow their advisor practice. So thank you, and give us a few minutes while we transition here.
See you.
All right, guys and gals, we are gonna continue on. So again, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I hope you guys are finding some value. Again, shout out to my teammate Kimberly who crushed it this morning. How's everyone feeling? How are we all doing in the elevation? My skin is already very angry and dry, coming from Dallas with the humidity. So, I wish I could say I'm a mountain. So hopefully everyone is moisturized and ready for the second half of class today. So I am joined by 2 rather joyous people. And if you have not been online and don't understand the joke, you will by the end of this event. I'm super excited to be here. So I'll let the 2 of them introduce themselves. So I'll start here on my left with Larry.
Morning, everybody. I'm Larry Sprung, founder and wealth advisor at Midland Financial, where we strive to bring joy to our clients' and families' money journey. And we're located on Long Island in New York, in Happe, and we've been around now 20 so years.
Hey, I'm Nick Gertsema, CEO and wealth advisor with Gertsema Wealth Advisors in St. Joseph, Missouri, training camp home of the Kansas City Chiefs, which makes being here a little difficult. I'm not sure if you heard about that team over there. But today I like to look at Larry's shirt that says, "What have you done today that brings you joy?" And I've got joy to be on stage with these 2. So
I also will say I'm very excited that you're sitting here because I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. So I feel she is here with us today. And Larry's kids both play hockey and are just incredible at it. So he will always be talking about his children and their drive on the ice. I almost said field.
Say 10 today, USA Olympics finals or quarterfinals. I don't even know.
But yes, today we're kind of wanting to work through the mindset shift from, can we do this tax planning thing and how do we bring it to our clients in a manner that makes sense and is, that terrible, terrible word we all hate is compliance, right? Like, how do we make sure that we're doing this properly? And how do we make it where your clients will understand it? We have harped on you guys all morning that tax planning is not easy. And I have worked at Holistiplan now almost 5 years. I still feel very in the dark. So, and I do this every day. And I am in that software every single day and trying to figure out what tax planning actually means to me and my family. So I thought, who better to learn from than two advisors that sit in your seats? So I'm gonna kick it off, and either one of you can grab the question. What is the biggest red flag on the return that tells you that the advisor is playing more defense than offense, or the tax preparer is playing more defense than offense? And yes, we're going sports because it is the Olympics.
Sure. I know one of the biggest things that we see, and we serve a lot of the mass affluent. So there's practices out there that go upscale and up market, and we're dealing a lot with, the millionaire next door, people who've got a net worth of $1 million or less. When we start seeing a lot of tax bleed on the portfolio, so we'll see a lot of short-term capital gains and non-qualified accounts. Obviously, you would see the qualified accounts on there, or you'll start seeing some dividends, or you'll see non-qualified dividends. Then we start realizing that we might not have an asset allocation problem. We probably have an asset location problem. So when we start seeing those, especially with our, I don't want to call them lower income, but people who are in the 12 or the 22% tax bracket, and you start seeing all this turnover, then you might want to look at what investments they have in which account, and maybe just switching what you've got in that after-tax account to a qualified account might make a ton of tax difference. Now, the fun thing is, I've never once had a client go in with their 1099-C and subtract what their returns were or what they paid in taxes. So that's kind of an eye-opening experience for clients that say, yes, you did this well on this sheet of paper, but now we're going to show you something that shows that you gave a lot of that right back.
I'll dovetail off of the capital gains piece as well. One thing that we notice and we're very cognizant of is, nasty IRMA tax, right? And a lot of times people, their income alone may not trigger an IRMA premium, but those capital gains could. And as we all know, you go over $1 into that next bracket, and it could be costing that family thousands of dollars in increased premiums. And you might argue, well, they made money, so they have to pay money, and that's accurate. But at the same time, if you could have more control over those capital gains and reduce that, that's a huge value add in a tax savings. And a lot of times the tax preparer, the CPA, they're not necessarily looking at that. If they're good, they are, but a lot of times they're just looking to churn out and get that tax return done, get the client to know what their liability is going to be or what their return is going to be. And nobody's really sitting down and examining that. And with this tool, you know in a matter of seconds where you stand with regard to where that income came from that pushed you into that IRMA premium.
And that's a great conversation with clients too.
It's probably one of the best because it shows you can add value right away. Couple minor tweaks can lead to major adjustments, and it's somebody you've won for life right after that.
And I think too, it also helps bridge that gap between you and the tax preparer, because you kind of are showing that you've got their back of like, hey, look, like we could make these fine tune their IRMA and their dividends and whatever they're going to do that year. And like, you've caught that for them so that now they're like, okay, great. Like, I know that the advisor that this client is working for is looking out for that need. I don't have to necessarily, or they're not even thinking about it, right? So like, you're being able to like have that CPA or that tax preparer's back and being able to like, again, they're playing the defense, right? They've got hundreds and hundreds of returns that they're filing, and you guys are coming in with the offense side going like, all right, we got this plan for them. This is what we're executing. We talked about it this morning about how tax planning is not just an April 15th kind of thing. How are you guys working with your clients to get them out of that mindset that, again, things happen year round. They can move, they can have new jobs. This would be my dream, like impulsively retire in the middle of the year on you. How are you guys?
Taylor Swift around the country.
Yes, exactly. Like, how are you guys planning or showing them that planning is not just like an April 15th thing. I mean, that's been ingrained in all of us, right? Like everyone in America knows tax day is April 15th, but like, how are you changing that mindset on them?
Yeah, I think that that's something that we have to be doing all year round, and I think that for a lot of purposes, it's residing on our shoulders because the accountants and the tax preparers, they're just looking at whatever the next deadline is, whether it's corporate tax filing, personal extensions, payroll tax, whatever it is, that's what they're looking for. So we have to, and this takes some explaining at first sometimes, right? And I don't know if you've experienced this. Sometimes people, clients will be like, well, why do you need my tax return? They don't understand how you can add value. So you have to communicate that and be able to show them different things that you can look at. And this tool really shows you the high level points very easily. But there are certain things like when we get their prior year tax return, just to make sure no major changes have taken place, we'll map out a Roth conversion. Now, we may not be doing that Roth conversion in April or May right away. We may wait for the market to sell off. But if we've modeled that out and can show them that, then we have all the plans in place and we have the conversation with the tax preparer. We can have it all ready to go so that when there is a volatility in the market, we can go ahead and take advantage of those things. You talk about like a job change. There might be a huge increase in income. They may have no clue, well, how is this going to affect me? Can I keep the same withholdings that I had at the old job with the new job? And we can look at that. And those are things that they call their accountant. Depending on the time of year they call them, they may not get an answer or they may not hear back for weeks where, we don't tell them that this is their exact amount that they need to withhold, but we can walk them through a pretty high level that'll put them in a safety zone that they don't have to worry about being hurt come tax time.
And we do a lot with retirement income, which is good because we have a little bit more control. But we also know more than the CPAs. And I don't mean that to be mean to any CPAs or tax preparers, but we've got a long-term vision. When someone calls a long-term plan, when someone calls their CPA or their tax preparer, their first question is usually, hey, how can you get me a bunch of tax breaks? How little can I pay in taxes this year? And we might know that they've got a 401k that's going to put them in RMD nightmare city where we know that they've got some problems coming up. So some of the advice we're going to give and can illustrate through this tool is going to say, we need to look at paying some more taxes now and kind of level out that tax bill. Whereas the CPA is just looking and saying, hey, you need a tax deduction because you're paying too much in taxes. So one of my favorite situations is when we're not selling, but given the idea and teaching about Roth conversions, we'll get clients who will come back on April 14th and says, hey, my CPA says I've got earned income and I got to do a traditional IRA contribution. And that flies in the face of the advice because, when you think about it, the tax preparer is a historian that gets to see what we've done. We have to look at the crystal ball. And now, whereas my crystal ball isn't the best and it's usually in the shop, this at least gives me some guidelines when I look through Holistiplan and say, hey, how are we going to thread that needle between, let's push the income a little higher with whether it's taking more distributions or what account we take the money from, but also try to stay below that IRMA threshold so that when you hit RMD age, all of a sudden you've lost control. You've got Social Security, you've got your required minimum distributions. Now, all of a sudden, their income's not going to get any lower and they're at the mercy of the government and the tax code.
Yeah, and to your question, everything we do has some kind of tax implication, some type of tax implication. So if we can't, let the family know that, hey, this isn't something we can look at once a year. If we don't let them know that, we're doing them a disservice because everything that we do for them has some kind of tax implication. And when we're evaluating whether to do A or B, we should be evaluating how that's going to impact their the taxes at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm already going to go off script and we're 7 minutes in. Are you guys doing tax planning for every single client? Are you guys like segmenting them out and deciding like these people, this group is going to get it, year round? We're maybe only going to run these folks, twice a year. Like, how are you deciding who gets what, or are you just doing it for everyone?
We do it for everyone. With as easy as this could sound like an advertisement, but as easy as it is with Holistiplan, we have really no reason not to do it. So we have our clients trained at this point and prospects that they give their tax returns to whoever's at the front desk. They scan them in, they get uploaded, and usually by the time they come in with their cup of coffee that we made fresh, they say, "Oh, by the way, the taxes are in Holistiplan. You guys are ready to go, and you can start doing tax planning." And what we find more, because you might think just higher income need the tax planning, even people who have low income, or let's just say all they have left is Roth IRAs and a TOD account or after tax, there could be tax gain harvesting to try to keep them into a spot where they can get 0% capital gains. And there is a lot of education that happens. I'm going to already go off script as well. One of my favorite stories is I was sitting down with a client, and I used to use my favorite tax planning tool and design program. You guys ever hear about Microsoft Excel? So I had drawn charts of what the tax brackets were. And I had a client who said that he desperately did not want to go from the 12% to the 22% tax bracket. And I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, even if we just kind of eke into it, that's just an additional 10 cents on the dollar. Well, he was 60 some years old and did not understand that tax brackets were progressive. So he thought that if he went from 12% to 22, he was going to be paying $9,000 extra on taxes, and that was going to qualify or really throw the planning off. So what we realized is there's a lot of things that we know in our brains and are really hard to explain. Like when I say, hey, the tax brackets are progressive and you're going to get the benefit of the lower tax brackets, as yada, yada, yada. When we do the tax report, even with a client who's never looked at it that way, we can show which tax brackets they're in and how much it's going to cost them and how much taxes they're paying in that tax bracket, which then moves the conversation forward without having to spend a ton of time, teaching.
I love showing families the average tax that they're paying, the percentage, because they're like, wait a minute, what's this average percent? I thought I'm in the 22, 24, 32%. Well, yeah, that's what you're paying on the next dollar you earn, but this is what average after you factor in your deductions and everything else. Oh, I didn't realize that. So it's a great tool. And so to answer the question directly, we ask everybody for tax returns so that we're prepared to help guide them if needed. We concentrate on our higher level, our A and A plus predominantly. They need a lot more work in the tax planning department, but for everybody who provides it, we still, and it's kind of funny. I mean, you guys, you all know how it goes, right? The people who need it the most have a tendency to fight you about giving you the tax return. It's like the craziest thing. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to guide you. Why? And they fight you. And then once they hand over that tax return and you have that first or second conversation, the light bulb goes off. So, and it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that these were even things that you guys could do or help me with. I thought my CPA is already looking out for me on this, and some are and some aren't, as we all know. But we're really focused on that tax planning on the higher end. But at the same time, there are decisions that need to be made that regardless of who is in our office, when we're meeting with them, regardless of their size or net worth or assets, if we have their tax returns, typically Holistiplan is something that we have opened and ready because there's going to be a question or something that comes up that we're going to need to reference that and bring into the conversation.
So one thing I like to tell clients is you wouldn't go to your doctor and tell them, hey, don't look at my historical charts. You go in and you've got knee pain and you say, well, don't look at the historical charts. Well, you broke your knee 3 times and you've had 7 surgeries. That might kind of play into what their treatment plan is going to be. So why would you go to a financial planner, show them a snapshot of just where you are right now and not show the historical documents?
Yeah. And how do you guys start planning for like the generational wealth? I hate this like generational wealth transfer because it's like so old and staunchy, but how are you guys starting to plan for that? Because I think a lot of people don't realize that the tax planning for that probably starts before the death of anyone in the family. Like the planning should really be starting now. Are those conversations hard to start with clients? Because I feel like some people don't want to think about it until, it happens. But the reality is it really should be starting now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they are harder to have because depending on the family and what they're looking to accomplish, they may or may not, want to go down that route. I think the thing that really pushed this to the forefront more than ever was the change with IRAs and the fact that, non-spousal, you only have the 10-year withdrawal rate. That has really changed the conversation with a lot of families because whereas before, their kids would be able to stretch it over their lifetimes a lot easier, lesser tax burden. Now they're faced with this situation where their kids or even grandkids could be faced with a large amount of income coming into their household. And you know what timing that's going to be at, typically when their kids are going to have to go to college and they're trying to balance the whole idea, with getting financial aid, because whether you make $1 or you make $1 million, everybody wants financial aid and they don't want to pay full price for college, but it's always going to come at that time. So being able to show that and have them understand that if God forbid something happens to you, you have this additional tax bomb that's potentially staring down your kids' financial future that could mean much higher tax rates for them than you. And it at least brings into the conversation the Roth conversion strategies and some gifting and some other things, 529 plans and forward gifting there. So we've used that as a tool. And I think it's an important one because I think, the people that are retiring today, for the most part, as everybody here knows, they didn't have the benefits of the Roth as lucratively as we all did or do. And a lot of them, even if they had it, weren't taking advantage of it because nobody really educated them heavily on what the difference is. And now that 10-year thing really, intensifies why you should start planning about, for this earlier.
So one thing I've had, or this is a lesson I learned the hard way, so I apologize. It's going to be story time. I'm not as smart as Larry, so I got to rely on stories. But I had a family come in for a family meeting, and I had the daughter, the son, and the parents, and we started going through and we're having those difficult conversations. Well, in my broker dealer days, I was taught to use terms like predecease and really, really, funeral parlor language, to not mention the word death or something like that. Well, the son got really, really into the financials, and then that's a different story altogether. And the daughter folded her arms and leaned back. And we're trying to have these conversations, and I'm trying to be as straight-laced professional in my nice tie. And then at the end, I asked, "Does anyone have any questions?" And the daughter, with tears in her eyes, literally leaned forward and said, "Mom, Dad, is there something you want to tell us?" Because in her mind, she thought that this was the mom and dad have cancer meeting, and not the, hey, let's just kind of get everyone up to date on it. So whenever I have that meeting, I try to use a little bit of humor, and mention things where, if you get hit by a bus, this is what's going to happen. If you kill him, then this is probably what's going to happen. And then when we flip to the estate planning, I always tell clients that we have never had a single client put Uncle Sam as one of their beneficiaries. So why are you? And then we can start going through it. But then it's a little bit more lighthearted because we're not thinking about our own mortality. We're just talking about not giving money to the government, which in my neck of the woods, no one really wants to give any more than they have to. So that's a really, really good conversation. So then we can start there. And then a lot of just like Larry was saying, that 10-year rule, that stretch going away is a big deal. So I try to phrase the taxes on a Roth conversion as a gift to their kids. And if you live a long life and you die at the age of 90 or later, how old are your kids when they're inheriting? I mean,
60s, 70s.
Their grandkids. Great grandkids.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So now you're looking at, okay, who's going to get this money? And now I'm going to hand them this qualified account when they're in their peak earning years. You've got an advisor like I could give someone this huge tax bomb and then hand it to Larry. And Larry has done all this great tax work for his client. And now they inherited an IRA worth, $1 million. So I don't know if I answered the question or just answered it.
I'm sitting here going like, this was literally the life we lived. My father-in-law passed away 2 years ago, and literally it was just like a bomb that was dropped in our lap. And again, the generation was, they didn't talk about money. His dad was very successful, but like none of that, and us kids knew this, but like there was no conversation between us kids and their advisor. They always went to the advisor, and the wife was never involved either. As much as I love my mother-in-law, she just was, not along for the ride, but she just was like, everything is going to be taken care of. I will never have to think about this. Well, what happens is Dave unfortunately passed before she did. and she knows nothing. And now it's taken us 2 years to actually clean up most of this, right? And now we're in a better position, and his mom feels very empowered. And, it's most likely, again, because how it's going to work is most of this will be passed on to my son and my niece, right? Like that's how it should be working. And it was just an eye-opening experience because we sit here in this room. We are the professionals that are running the finances, and this really happened to my family. And I'm like, wow, we are not as prepared as I thought we were. And so I always want to make sure that everyone is prepared, because the taxes is a sneaky thing. We just assume that once someone passes or whatever, or the money is gone, there is no ramification, but there really is. I also, I'm guessing, a show of hands, lots of people work with business owners in this room. I know there's probably more entrepreneurs these days than anything before. Are you guys starting to have that exit conversation with the business owners long before they're ready to sell it, just so they have a plan? Or how does that work? Because I know a lot of business owners are just I'm going to work here until the day I die. And then one of my kids is going to take over this, and it's just going to continue on. So we don't have to do any planning, especially on the tax side for businesses.
You want to go?
No, that's all you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think there's any real difference between working with a business owner and working with a family. I think ideally all of us would love to work with a family well before they have any intentions of retiring or slowing down. So you have a plan in place, you have a vision with the family as far as what they're looking for. The business, that's just a highly concentrated asset that is more complicated in many instances than the family finances. And plus, it's intertwined into the family finances. And I think, the earlier you start planning for that, the better, working towards value creation instead of, income. And what I mean by that is a lot of times the business owners, and, a lot of you may be business owners yourselves, they're concentrating on the income that this business is producing for them and their family today, which is one tax issue. And then the second piece is, and where they should be focused is, how do we use this business to create additional value over time, so I have an asset that's worth something, whether it's something we transition internally or externally. And if you have a plan in place well in advance, you have options. It doesn't have to be Johnny who's going to inherit the business, and then you find out when you're on your deathbed that Johnny has no interest in being in the business, and now this business value has tanked. So you really want to start that value creation conversation as early as possible. And I would argue earlier, if possible, than you would have any kind of family financial planning discussion, because it's just far more complicated. And taxes are just really one component of that overall decision. There are going to be tax decisions along the way that need to be made. And then ultimately, upon the sale or transition of the business, that's going to be the largest tax conversation that they're going to probably ever have in their lifetime.
You're absolutely right. I know they say all the time that taxes are usually your number one expense in retirement. It's the one that no one wants to talk about. We don't do a lot of business transition planning. I think you've got a designation because you're the expert, right?
I got the seat because we were doing a lot of it, and it was very eye-opening in terms of what actually needs to be done, and it's been extremely helpful. You need to assemble the right team. I do not want to be the quarterback of these transitions, but I definitely want to be in the financial planning conversation because they're two different animals.
So, I mean, my only real experience with the transition is I'm a G2. Is anybody in here a G2? Just me. I'll come alone. Okay. I'm sure there's one online. So I had to buy the business from my dad. So it was totally, he owned 100% of it and I was buying 100% of it. And we started down this road as two financial planners. One of us had 30 years of experience. I'm not going to say who. And we started going through, how are we going to do the transfer of this business? And then all of a sudden it was, okay, well, what's your cost basis? What's been put into the business? All of those financial conversations. And we struck our deal and we knew what we were going to do. We went to our attorney and we looked at it. And then I plugged it into Holistiplan. I was like, wait, is this going to be capital gains? Is this going to be return of capital? Is this going to be ordinary income? And then the interest rates went up. So everything that we had planned that was going to make sense was now going to be interest, which would be I'd get the deduction. Now it's going to be ordinary income for him. And I think we restructured our deal about 6 or 7 times to get to the same place we started just because of taxes. So being able to plug it in, use the tool, and have the conversation. Now, I got to say this too, because he's not here and he's not online. We had people that he would come to me and say, Nick, I've got this idea. What if we did X, Y, Z? We put this into a trust. You bought this, and we did that. So we'd go talk to our tax planner or our attorney, and he'd be, that's a great idea, but that's tax evasion. So you have to pay taxes, and I don't think there is a tax evasion tab in Holistiplan. I'm not advocating for it. But that's what we,
Put that in for a product request.
yeah, it came from Larry. But it's one of those things where as you're going through this, I mean, me as someone who's a financial planner buying a business from a financial planner 3 years ago, you'd think that we would know the tax consequences, but as we're looking at it, we're like, geez, that's a lot of money. I don't want to do that. How do we restructure this? How do we lengthen the note? What do we do to make sure that the money that I am paying goes to my father and not to my favorite uncle, which is Uncle Sam?
And everybody is, I forget who I was talking to last week about this, but everybody's concentrated on, what's the valuation and what's going to be the multiple of EBITDA, is it going to be 20 or 21 or whatever the numbers are, and wanting higher. But the reality is, if you want a greater valuation, you want more earnings dropping to the bottom line. That'll have a greater effect than getting a higher multiple. So if you could figure out a way to value create from the beginning and have more EBITDA dropping to the bottom line, that's just going to naturally, escalate the multiple conversation. And you may not need as high a multiple to get to a larger number. So, and as business owners, they're always focused on the multiple. So there are other things and other levers that could be pulled, and using kind of this tool to figure out how you can pull those levers for that family are extremely helpful.
So one thing just to point out, and I don't know if I'm shifting the conversation again, but we are at the nitrogen conference. How many people here use Riskalyze? You kind of oversimplify to move the conversation along to help somebody understand risk appetite versus risk tolerance. And I absolutely love the conversations that happen when you're doing the eye doctor thing. Do you want option A or option B? But
I hate that.
Oh, I love it.
I hate it.
Oh, the conversations where everyone
always look the same.
Well, at the eye doctor, I hate it. I mean, but when you start seeing people squirm, then you realize you're hitting a nerve. But then you're having those conversations and you have moved the conversation from the tool to the client. And that's what I love about being able to use Holistiplan, because tax planning modules, I'm sure everyone absolutely loved them whenever you went through it for the 66, 65 CFP or wherever you learn it these days. I don't have to teach this entire book. I just have to show you where you are. And at the end of the day, the client's not asking, hey, what is the tax code? What can I do? It's, hey, how does this impact me? And what do I need to care about? Just like with Riskalyze, you're not going to ask, hey, what's a risk 88 investment? It's going to be, okay, where's my risk and how does this affect me? And am I comfortable with this? So when you can start having the IRMA conversation, the tax bracket conversation, and I think effective tax rate and marginal tax rate or CPA speak, you're absolutely right. The average tax rate is more important to a client than anybody else. So,
and I think, Nick hit on something that's extremely important that we're all hearing about, right? We're all hearing about AI. We're all hearing about technology. We're also hearing about AI and technology. Possibly there's the conversation about it replacing us, getting rid of us, right? I think what Nick just said, though, highlights the point that we are safer than ever, because the 88 score, if somebody goes and uses Riskalyze or uses Holistiplan and puts their information into Holistiplan and it says you could do a Roth conversion, most people are not going to feel comfortable just pulling the trigger and doing a Roth conversion based upon what Holistiplan says. They want to have that interaction. They want to have that conversation with one of us and make sure that this high stake decision that they're approaching is the right one for them. And that's not going to be done by one of these tools.
I 100% agree. And you said it much more intelligently than I did. So I appreciate that.
Eat apples.
And I think you guys bring up a great point is technology is here to bring value to what you're doing, not to replace what you're doing. And I think, again, the AI drive is important. And I think again, everyone is going to use it and it's going to show up somehow or some way in everything that we do. But the reality is people still want that human interaction. I've seen iRobot. I do not want that to be my life. That terrifies me. But at the end of the day, we just really want to still have that human interaction, and money and talking about your finances is still that pain point for people that still feel like that is something we can't automate. We still need someone to talk to about it.
So I think one thing that we talked about earlier is how you've got to earn the permission to ask for tax returns and show them why. And then you show them the tool, and then you have the planning conversations. And then all of a sudden, October, someone comes by and says, "Hey, I got a part-time job. Here's my paycheck. Here's what I think I'm going to make. How is this going to impact the plan?" And then you fast forward, and then you've got someone who says, "Hey, I've been managing my own Schwab account on the outside. I don't think this works with my plan. Why don't I just bring it to you and you just get your arms around all this because you understand my entire situation?" And that's the other thing. We talked about the tax bleed earlier. Sometimes it's the clients doing it to themselves. I mean, you start seeing people trade options, especially with meme stocks and stuff like that. They don't know what a wash sale is. And then you get to be the fantastic person who sits down and says, "Yes, you made $4,000 last year, but you owe $15,000 in taxes." Being able to show that kind of earns that trust and shows that AI and Robinhood, neither of them are going to help you, know what you should and shouldn't know or do and get your arms on the entire picture.
We were talking about earlier, being this all year round thing, right? One of the best features that we found is, it points out on the one report what the safe harbor provision is for the family. That's usually beneficial. If somebody has a windfall during the year, it might just be as simple as them making a quarterly payment, which they may end up with this windfall, have way more money than they need to pay into taxes for the safe harbor. But why, if you have this windfall in March or April, why pay in all this tax money when you don't have to? Pay in the safe harbor, take the rest of it. I'm not saying invest it, but you can even put it into a high yield savings account right now, get 3 to 4% on your money and at least help mitigate some of that tax ramification. And that's something that a lot of times the accountants will miss. They'll be like, "Okay, well, you should pay this in quarterly taxes." And it's basically the tax that they're owed on whatever that windfall is, when they could have had that money working for them a little bit better. So there are a lot of tools that allow us to have that conversation with families all year round and not just do it, once a year.
Yeah. And before we open up to questions, and I know quite a few people have raised their hand already, one last question for both of you. If an advisor in the audience wants to start getting it right tomorrow, what is the first question that they should ask their clients when requesting the return? Because I think that's a huge hurdle for a lot of people, is getting the return from their clients because they just don't understand, why am I doing this?
I would say don't even do that as your first thing. I will say your first thing is take your own tax return, throw it into Holistiplan, and look at your own tax situation and walk through it and see. Get a handle on it. Get comfortable with it. You may be doing things that you might be able to do a little bit better that you realize now that you put your tax return in there, because you may not have the relationship with your accountant or tax preparer to the degree that you think you should. Put it in there, take a look at it, get comfortable with it. And then once you're comfortable with it, it's very easy to translate that to a family and say, "This is why I used it for my own tax return. This is what I learned about my own tax situation. And these are, 3 areas that I feel comfortable that we could help you with right off the bat. And it's going to be a value add." Talk about fee compression. That's something that's been talked about for, the 20 years I've been in the profession. There's no fee compression. We're just doing more services for the same fee. We're having to add more value for the same fee. And this is an easy way to add a lot of value and be able to add value to the current fees that you're charging. And I would say start with yourself and then move it on to the families you work with.
Ditto. No, I like the way you said it. It's a lot better, but what we typically do is we try to give them a little bit of something first to show them why, especially if it's a cold prospect who's not a referral. That's where I go back to the chart, like literally built in Microsoft Excel. And I always say, hey, I check politics at the door unless it could make you some money. And here's a chance where it could save you some money, which is the same as making money. And I do a comparison where we show what the pre-Tax Cut and Jobs Act tax brackets look like and what they look like now. And we increase with inflation, and we start saying, no, this is the standard deduction, there's this, and we start explaining to them how they can potentially pay taxes now and save money. And then they'll start asking questions. Well, should I be doing this Roth conversion? Should I start to do this? And I can just look at them and say, I have absolutely no idea what you should do. I don't know enough about you, but I can. If you want to give me some information, then I can advise you because you're here for advice, and that's what you're looking for. And then typically at that point, they're pretty quick to say, okay, if I brought you my tax return, what are you going to do? And then we can start that conversation of here's the first things I'm going to look for. And then this all has to fit within the context of the plan. So financial planning is not, a series of silos where you've got Social Security here, you've got tax planning here, you've got investment selection here. It's dominoes. And if you mess up one thing, it's going to send a ripple effect or a butterfly effect or whichever analogy I'm going to choose to use. And it's going to completely mess up your entire plan, where you're going to have to start being reactive about the other parts of your plan to the damages that you created. So if you could be proactive, and the best guidelines and guardrails of the plan is knowing what the taxes are, then you're not going to make those mistakes and have to go on defense.
Awesome. I appreciate you both. We're going to open it up to questions now because I know there's quite a few in the room. So I guess we'll start here on the left or my left.
I'm coming with them.
Is there a private file you said that you put it in, so like all your kingdom looking at it?
There is, yes. So if you have multiple advisors in your office, each one of you can actually set up your own account. So if say you purchase the license, thank you. My brain is not firing. You can actually set up different advisors under each. So each of you would have your own instance, but you could also share clients. So maybe you're working with a client together. You can share that individual client between the two of you, but everyone else would be hidden.
Torie, will you please repeat the question for those?
Yes,
online?
the question was, can you have multiple advisors in one instance of Holistiplan, and can they all see the clients or can they be hidden?
And for the private household, because I mentioned that as well, if you go to help.holistiplan.com and type in private household, it'll tell you how to set it up in the system.
Yes. Yes, sir.
One of the questions I had, which was, I'm kind of solidly in the blue section, doing this for select clients where high net worth. Would you just say go and just offer it to everybody, just point blank, prospects, existing clients, just start at least on an annual basis?
So I don't use it for prospects because for me personally, I don't want to give away things before we have families that are committed to working with us. We want them working with us because they see the value in working with us, and then that'll be something we'll implement. I would say that there is a lot of value in utilizing this with everybody. And one of the biggest values are even those not necessarily top tier clients. You can build, which we didn't talk about, you can build a really great rapport if you have the right CPA who sees the value that you're bringing to the table and working collaboratively with them, because you're saving them from phone calls and exchanges that they want to be doing tax returns, which is their high value work. They don't want to necessarily be answering some of these questions, where if you could build that relationship, you can, cross pollinate. We have one CPA that loves us using Holistiplan. We have about 40 to 50 relationships that are now in common between us. Some of those are ones that we introduced to him. Some of those are he introduced to us because he knows that we can do this work. So I would say not prospects per se for us, but across the board, even those other clients that may not need necessarily tremendous amount of tax planning, it really builds a bridge if you do it in the right way between you and the tax provider.
And I'll hop in real quick on that piece too. We also offer what we call a tax planning letter. So you have in the account, you can build these letters. One would go to the client, so it'll bullet point what you are planning for the year for the client, or that certain section of the year that you're at with them. It'll explain to them what each of those items means, but you can toggle it to the CPA version, which will be the same letter. It's just bullet pointed out and doesn't give the description, because a CPA would know, right? And you don't want to assume that they are not educated in those pieces. So it's really great, because now you have a deliverable to the client that you can send, hey, this is what we talked about in our meeting. These are what we're going to implement. And this is what I'm sending to your tax preparer. And then you send the letter to the tax preparer. So again, bridging that gap between you and the preparer.
So I'm on the other side of the coin. I'm in a different market, and I absolutely love what you're doing, but I'm going to disagree for my market, because we're different worlds. I'm surrounded by a lot of brokers. So I'll have clients who come in and say, hey, I have a financial plan. I have tax planning. And then I look at their statement.
Well, they think they do.
Yeah, they think they do, but they have no idea. So they say, yeah, my broker does tax loss harvesting and I'm in municipal bonds. It's like, great, but you are in the 12% tax bracket. Why are you in municipal bonds? Well, that's tax planning. So we have to show them that, hey, how is your broker doing tax planning when they've never looked at your taxes? So we kind of have to get over that hump a little bit, because there's just a lot of people in the industry versus the profession who think they know and they think they're doing right by their clients. So I don't think it's nefarious. I just think that they were taught tax loss harvesting is tax planning. Whenever you get a chance, you do tax loss harvesting. I've talked to brokers who say, how do you know how much to do in a Roth conversion? I'm like, well, you look at the taxes. Oh, we can't do that. So, I mean, it seems intimidating, but it's just such a great roadmap and actionable insights that, for me, we build our plans based on it. And that's how we win business.
You reminded me of a story. So we had a new family that joined us the middle of last year. And if anybody here is with this large, well, I won't say who the large bank is, but she went into a large bank. It was her advisor. She has a couple $1 million. She was considering selling one of her 2 homes. And she went to the advisor and said, hey, if I sell this home, how's that going to affect me tax-wise? And the advisor said to her that, I don't know. We don't do anything with taxes here. We only do investments. So needless to say, she's no longer there. But imagine that, right? Imagine that's how we have to differentiate ourselves. You can't say that I'm not doing that. I'm not looking at that. That's part of their plan.
I think it was you that said you are not charging clients for this. Is that right? You're just giving this value add.
Yeah, we're not charging separately for it. It's baked into the value proposition that we're providing to the families based on either the assets under management or the fee for service.
Yep, same thing. We're pretty worthless without a roadmap. So we need the tax returns. I don't want any more friction between their taxes and me.
And we talked about compliance earlier, and I have no clue where this falls on the side of compliance. So check with your own compliance office, but I don't even know how that would look if you were to charge specifically for that. I don't know if it would be considered tax advice and outside the scope of maybe your, arrangement, agreement, et cetera. So I don't know.
Yes, ma'am. We had a great deal of success training our clients' CPAs to send us PDFs.
That's awesome.
That's incredible. And I appreciate your hoodie. She's wearing our Holistiplan hoodie. So that is coveted swagwear.
Mine was stolen. It was too comfortable.
Yes, I don't own any of them in my household anymore.
My wife told me I couldn't wear that, and she tells me what to wear. So.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Does Holistiplan have any type of, lead magnet like Riskwise has the link you can send out and they can kind of do it themselves? That's one.
Yes, great question. So the question was, is there a lead capture that you can use, like a link that you can send to your clients for them to send you the data that you need? I'm not sure if you're already using our insurance side of our technology tool. So we have we have built basically what we do on the tax planning side for insurance. So you upload the declaration pages for home, auto, and umbrella, and it goes much deeper than that. That's just like the broad, and it gives you a report just like the tax return to tell you, is this client covered properly for the items that they own or have? And we have rolled out 2 really great integrations in the last 2 weeks on that product alone, one with Canopy Connect and one with Prism, that allows you to send that link that you're talking about to the client to collect those declaration pages, because a lot of clients don't really know what is the right page to send. I will say I was one of the test dummies at Holistiplan trying to, as we were building it, and 10 out of 10 times I sent in the wrong form. And so with the Canopy Connect, we are able to just, they add in their login information for whoever does their insurance. It pulls that data for you and it automatically uploads. So you're not actually collecting it. And then the Prism account allows you, say that a client isn't working, you're on the insurance side. So this may be for the advisors in the room. If that client is not working with an insurance deal broker, or they're maybe not impressed with who they're working with, it will connect them with someone to allow them to, have their insurance looked at deeper. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So our piece is not doing the life insurance and Medicare premiums yet. But if you're trying to get it off their tax returns, we also have a link on the tax return side to send out a link that you can send as well. Yep.
Hey, I've never thought of saving money. What was this?
Oh, like a lead gen link? Yeah. Yeah, or Risklize has the do you want to know your risk score? Click this button. Yeah. We don't have any lead gen in that sort of copy paste this into that URL into your email address, but that's kind of a great product feature. So we will definitely take that down, because I know a lot of people are starting to figure out how do we market that we're doing tax planning. And so we're trying to collect different ideas, but I do like that one. Yes.
You mentioned, well, first off, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
You had mentioned training your clients to letting them know this is something you implement for their tax planning and something you just offer. Do you have any tips on letting them know that this is going to be a part of the annual routine and this is just something that we offer?
We just started, when we initially started doing this, we just kind of rolled it out. So beforehand, we were asking for tax returns, and we're once again using my favorite planning software, which was Excel, and kind of plugging things in and flipping through the tax returns. We got a lot of tax returns because we were doing retirement income, and we would want to see what their net take-home pay was after all the deductions. So we had some clients that had brought us their tax returns, and then we scanned them in and we showed them this, and wow, that's really cool. So I don't know how you would shift to earning the right to ask for the tax returns. For me, I'd go back to my previous, where we would start educating them on what the tax brackets are, and then they'd ask, well, what should I do? And then, well, bring us your tax returns. Let's figure this out.
We just have it as part of our our onboarding process, that those are documents. Usually we want the last 2 years tax returns. Sometimes we get pushback on the 2 years, and if there hasn't been a large change in the family situation, job, etc., we'll just, if they have the first one immediately, we'll just take the most recent. But if there was a major change, then we want to see the last 2, and we just implement it as part of our onboarding process, that it's part of the financial planning that we're going to be doing.
And we've heard from a lot of advisors too that use the system. We built a marketing toolkit that has email templates in there that you can use, and it gives the value of why you're doing this and why you're collecting it. And we've got one pagers, kind of how Risklize has built out those really great one pagers as well. So being able to show why you are doing this, a lot of clients, it clicks for them as oh, okay, I understand. You're collecting, just like how you're collecting my information on my 401ks and all of that. This is just another one of those items that you're collecting to have more of a better financial picture, to get the better financial picture for them. Any other questions in the room? Yeah. We do have people using that integration now. It just depends on, again, your comfortability with pulling that information for your client. So we do have some advisors using it, not many currently. Kimberly, was there questions online that we could answer, or did the team get to them? Awesome. Well, if there's nothing else that anyone wanted to ask, again, thank you guys so much for being here today. I know waking up early to start your day is never super fun, especially if you're coming in from the East Coast or the, West Coast. You're kind of off time, like all of us. We have a booth here today, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Kimberly and I will be here in the room. Like, come chat with us, connect with us online. We're always here to chat. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of your time.